Hey you guys, today we're going to be moving on to section 1.6 and talking about proportional relationships. So to get us started in our notes, a proportion is an equation stating that two ratios or two fractions are equivalent. Yes, I spelled that. I had a moment of panic thinking I spelled that wrong. Yeah, so two ratios or fractions, that means the same thing, are equivalent. And for two fractions or ratios to be equivalent, they have to have the same simplified form. So we've got two examples. We want to determine if the following ratios are proportional. So for our first example, we have 3 over 5 and 18 over 30. So 3 over 5 and 18 over 30. All right, so we want to see if these fractions can be reduced or simplified. 3 and 5 don't have any factors in common. The only numbers that go into 3 are 1 and 3. Only thing that goes into 5 is 1 and 5. I guess technically they have a 1 in common, but dividing by 1 to simplify won't change anything. So this is already simplified. So then we just have to worry about simplifying 18 over 30. So we're looking for a common factor. We try and get the greatest common factor, but it's sometimes going to be hard to figure out that greatest common factor. So I know that 6 goes into 18 and 6 goes into 30. 3 would work, 2 would work. There's a couple of different numbers. So I'm going to divide by 6 on top and bottom. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And look at that, 18 over 30 simplified to 3 over 5. So because this 18 over 30 equals 3 over 5, we have a proportional relation. So our definition says it's an equation stating two ratios are equivalent. So 18 over 30 equals 3 over 5. That is our proportion. So we would say, you could also say that they're proportional. All right, for our next example, we have 8 over 24 and we have 6 over 20. So starting with 8 over 24, we want to know if we can simplify or reduce that fraction. So to reduce that fraction, 8 is a factor of 24, so both of these numbers are divisible by 8. So we divide 8 divided by 8 and 24 divided by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 24 divided by 8 is 3, so we get 1 over 3. For our other fraction, we have 6 over 20. And so 6 and 20 are both divisible by 2, I know for sure. There may be others I'm not thinking clearly right now, but I know 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay, so 2 would have been the greatest common factor there because the only thing that goes into 3 is 1 and 3, and 10 isn't divisible by 3, and dividing by 1 wouldn't change anything. So we have 1 over 3 and 3 over 10 is our simplified versions. So 1 over 3 is not the same as 3 over 10. Those are two different fractions and they can't be simplified anymore. So that lets us know that 8 over 24 does not equal 6 over 20, or they are not proportional. Either of those mean the same thing. Okay, so that's how to figure out if two numbers are proportional. Next, we're going to look at how to solve proportions. All right, so when it comes to solving a proportion, we use the cross product. All right, and this is what everyone's always asking about when they ask about using the butterfly. That's what we're going to be using when we talk about the cross product. So the cross product is what we use when we go to solve a proportion. And when I say solve a proportion, I mean in an equation like this, one of the numbers has been replaced with a variable. That's a proportional equation. So our first example, we have x over 4 equals 12 over 16. So to solve our proportion, we need to know what x is. So to do that, one of the quickest ways to do it is to use the cross product. So when we do the cross product, we multiply the numerator of the first fraction times the denominator of the second fraction. So x times 16, which is 16x. Then we multiply the denominator of the first fraction times the numerator of the second fraction. So 4 times 12, which is 48. And so it kind of looks like a really weird butterfly. Honestly, if I saw a butterfly like that, I would be very concerned. But a lot of people call it the butterfly method. But the official name for this procedure is the cross product. So 16x equals 48. To solve for x, we would need to divide both sides by 16. 16 divided by 16 is 1, leaving us with 1x, which is the same as just x. And then 48 divided by 16, I don't expect you to know this fact off the top of your head, but 48 divided by 16 is 3. So we get x equals 3. Okay. Next, we have 14 over n equals 5 over 8. So we need to know what n is equal to. So again, we're going to use the cross product. So 14 times 8. Now, I can't do 14 times 8 in my head. So I'm going to come over to the side. 8 times 4 is 32. So we bring down the 2 and carry the 3. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. So we get 112. So 112 equals, then we multiply the other side. 5 times n gives us 5n. And then to solve for n, we need to divide both sides by 5. So over here, 5 divided by 5 is 1, which would leave us with just 1n, which is the same thing as n by itself. And then 112 over 5 doesn't simplify. You can give me the decimal if you want to, but I'm going to leave it as 112 over 5. Okay? So that would be that proportion solved. And then finally, we have 9 over 2 equals 3 over p. And again, for this one, we're going to use our cross product. So we multiply 9 times p and get 9p. And then we're going to multiply 3 times 2 using that cross product. 3 times 2 is 6. Then we need to get p by itself, so we divide both sides by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1. So we would have 1p, which is the same as just p by itself. And then we have 6 over 9, and I'm going to simplify 6 over 9 because we want our fraction in simplest form. So to simplify 6 over 9, 6 and 9 are both divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide numerator and denominator by 3. 6 divided by 3 gives us 2. 9 divided by 3 gives us 3. So we end up with p equals 2 over 3. Okay? So that's solving the equations. And then finally, we've got a word problem. Everybody's favorite, right? So there are 20 grams of protein in a 3-ounce steak. How many grams of protein are there in a 9-ounce steak? So to do this, this is still a proportion. We just have to figure out how to write that proportion. So if we come down here, it says there are 20 grams of protein in a 3-ounce steak. So I'm going to compare that relationship. 20 grams of protein, and I'm going to include the G so I know that that's the grams of protein, for every 3 ounces of steak. All right, so I'm just writing it as a fraction to compare the two. The amount of grams compared to the amount of ounces of steak. All right, so then we want to know if this proportion is true, or sorry, if this fraction is true, then how many grams of protein are there? So we're looking for the number of grams, so I'm going to put an X there because that's going to be our variable. How many grams of protein are there in a 9-ounce steak? So down here we have 9 ounces. So to solve this, we're going to set up a proportion, an equation like we had up here. So we're going to make them equal to each other, because whatever the relationship between the amount of grams of protein and the ounces of steak over here should theoretically be the same relationship that we have over here. The amount of protein should kind of match up with the number of ounces of steak that you have. So again, to solve this, we're going to use the cross product. And I'm sorry, that was a terribly drawn circle. But 20 times 9 is 180. And now I'm going to leave off the units. So 180 is equal to, over here, you don't have to, they would simplify, but leave off the units to help you out. And then over here, sorry, we have 3 times x, which gives us 3x. All right, and then we need to find x, so we divide both sides by 3. And when we do that, sorry, I'm trying to give myself more room. Okay, so when we do that, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1x would just give us x. And 180 divided by 3 would be 60. So 60 is x. And now, since we're talking about a word problem, we want our answer to match the situation that we're in. So 60 equals X tells us nothing about what the question is asking. The question says, how many grams of protein are there in a 9-ounce steak? So we found X equals 60. Well, up here, if we had grams on top over here, X should be grams as well. So our answer is that there are 60 grams of protein. All right, we're making our answer match the situation we're in. Because if you're in real life trying to figure out the protein in your steak, if you're talking to somebody, if you're talking to a nutritionist or to a friend, and you tell them 60 equals X, that means nothing in the context of your situation. So you want to make sure, even if you're solving it algebraically, at the end you go back and you put your answer in the context of your situation to help you out. All right, I think that's all the notes for today. Yes, okay. That's it for 1.6 proportional relation. Let me say it again. Proportional relationships. Sorry about that. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and have a great day.